Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another Warhammer Fantasy Battle, 2,500 points of Beastmen against Dwarves. We're in the High Street Kensington Games Workshop. Go there, buy the t-shirt, and my opponent is the Planetary Governor. We deployed as you see. It's another game against Dwarves, but winter's coming, and nothing insulates better than a dwarf beard coat. So let's get to the harvest. On the left, which we'll call East this game, is a brick of Ironbreakers with a hero. Next to it is a horde of Longbeards with the general riding his shields. Right at the back is a Dwarf Slayer on his own, then an Organ Gun and a Flame Cannon. On the west flank we've got another cannon and a unit of Iron Drakes, I believe. Never seen them before, interested to see what they do. And this is my deployment. From the left we've got a Razorgore, a horde of Bestigor with my general. In front of that, a Spirit Host, which is actually a Razorgore. And on the right there, we've got my Gore unit with the character wall at the front. Next to that is my normal Gore unit, and they're in bus formation, because I need to fit my army through that gap somehow. Next to them is a giant flagon, which clearly my goats have stolen from the dwarves, or their ancestors, and are using as a herdstone to dance around. And there's the level 1 of Shadow parting out on his own for now. Next to that is a Tuskor Chariot, a Razorgore, and another Tuskor Chariot. My level 2 Wizard of Beasts is starting in the normal Gore unit, and my level 4 is starting with the character wall. The Iron Drake's Vanguard into that building, and I'm okay with that. It opens up the path to the war machines, and as long as they're shooting the normal Gore unit, they can do it all day, I don't care. Dwarf turn 1, and the Organ Gun kicks things off by raking down a rank or so of Gore. Either the Flame Cannon or the Iron Drakes, I forget which one, knocks the chariot on the far east flank down to 1 wound, and the Razorgore shrugs off a direct hit from a cannonball. I love it when they do that. So with that all done, we move into Beastmen turn 1 after movement, and you can see I push. The Razorgore and the chariots go rattling off down the funnel to the east. And I'm traffic jamming a bit with the rest of my Gore, but I'm hoping I should be able to wiggle into a better position next time I move. We find out that the forest in the north is a normal wood, and then we go right on into magic. I don't channel, but the herdstone's given me a good amount of dice. I 3 dice Wisson's Wild Form on my Wall Gore unit, and my opponent lets me have it. I miasma the Organ Gun, and my opponent dispels. I think I try and 1 dice Wisson's Wild Form on my normal Gore, and that doesn't go off. And then I put my last couple of dice into the Horn of the Great Hunt, and sound the bestial surge. And boom, we get a whole lot closer to that dwarven line. We find out that that forest in the middle is a poison wood, but I think I passed my dangerous terrain. And I'm feeling pretty good about this. I've got 3 fairly hard-hitting chaff units bearing down on his artillery. And if he wants to shoot them, then he's not shooting at my Gore. So yeah, starting to hope. Dwarves turn 2. The Lone Slayer pulls off a Hail Mary charge against the Razorgore, and I decide to flee. My thinking here was that if he didn't kill my Razorgore, then I'm stuffed because my big Gore units are all stuck right out there in the open for another round of shooting. And there's good odds he'd fail and get pulled out of position if I ran, so I did it. He rolled an 11 and slammed into my character wall. In the shooting phase, his cannon kills the chariot with 1 wound, and both the Razorgore and the other chariot head for the hills. Just marvellous. And then the Flame Cannon and the Iron Drakes proceed to rape my other goats. Whew. I think we lost 13 of them. Yep. You know what I really wish I'd brought? The Chalice of Dark Rain. Oh wait, I did! But you know what? I forgot about it this entire game. There's no helping me, guys. There is no helping me. In combat, the Dwarf Slayer bellows the challenge, but the goats aren't having any of it, and one of the Wargore sidles to the back. The Slayer puts everything he has into the BSB, but can't get through the wild form toughness. We made a bit of a mistake because we didn't think you could maximise on the charge, which you do have to. Read the bottom of page 20 in the Big Red Rulebook. And so only my Battle Standard Bearer and a supporting goat attack, and they don't do anything to the Slayer. He sticks because he's unbreakable, and that sucks. Beastmen turn 2. The Razorgore and the chariot astound me by rallying, and perhaps that flank isn't quite done yet. Not really having anything else to do, my normal Gore unit charge the Iron Drakes and lose 6 of their number to Overwatch, or stand and shoot. And that was quite a sizable mistake. I should have just left them where they were. And there's a close-up of that happening. In the rest of movement, my Bestigor tried to wiggle up past my deadlocked Wall Gore unit. Technically, they shouldn't have been allowed to do this, as if we go back up to this picture, you can see that they can't quite wheel. But my opponent was very generous, and let me go ahead with the move anyway. Very commendable sportsmanship there. The only other thing to say is that my Razor Gore passed its dangerous terrain chest and got behind the Iron Breakers to again put pressure on the artillery. In the magic phase, the winds blow pretty strong. I start things off by 3-dicing Wisson's Wild Form on my Wall Gore unit with my level 2, and I miscast. It's on an 8, and I suck all the rest of my dice down the hole and put a wound on the offending wizard, the other to avoid harm. But that's not very good. In combat, we claim our first beard from the Iron Drakes, but lose all the rest of the Goat Horde in return. And then the Dwarf Slayer kills my BSB. And that's not good. I guess it teaches him to go into battle without the flag. In revenge, we kill the Slayer, but it feels a bit of a poor recompense, I'm not going to lie. So, we trot along into Dwarf turn 3. The only movement is that the Iron Breakers shuffle back a bit to deny the charge from my Razor Gore on the Organ Gun, the little buggers. And then we go into shooting. The Flame Cannon bakes about 6 or 7 of my Gore and puts a wound on one of my War Gores. And the cannon snipes out the last chariot. You may notice there's no Razor Gore in this picture. Well, after the Iron Drakes killed all the Gore, it failed its panic chest and ran off the board. And that was just sloppy, to be honest. And then the Organ Gun violates about 6 or 7 of my Bestigor. Goodness, I wish I had that chalice. Moving into Beastmen turn 3, this is my dead pile. My opponent has lost 2 dwarves. But that's fine, because now it's combat time. Or it would be, but we run into the Rune of Slowness again. I needed to roll a 5 to make this charge, and I got an 8. But the dwarves rolled 2 dice and picked the highest, and he rolled a 6. So I fail my charge, lose a couple of goats to dangerous terrain, and I'm just going to put it out there, things aren't looking so good. On a brighter side, the Bestigor and the Razor Gore both charge the Iron Breakers and make it. No Rune of Slowness there. Seriously, that item is amazing. You slog through some of the best shooting in the game towards some truly solid combat bricks, and then you lose more than half your charge because his highest dice effectively negates your highest. So you either move up into his charge range, which the army is designed not to need anyway, and take another round of shooting, or you charge, fail, end up in his charge range, and take another round of shooting. I like the Horn of the Great Hunt even better now, but man, it's still tough. But I can't blame my opponent for building his list well. To make the best of a bad situation, I moved the Razor Gore up to where you see. Maybe it could block a charge. Perhaps I could have put pressure on the war machines, but with 3 of them and not a lot else to shoot at, it's dead. And there's not a lot I can do about it. The sharp-eyed among you may notice that I'm missing some goats in this picture, including my level 4. Well, in the magic phase, he tried to 6 dice Savage Beast, which he did, and then my opponent spell broke it and ate it because he didn't miscast. He then rolled 3 or 4 dice at Pan's Impenetrable Pelt, and miscast with a Dimensional Cascade, which killed a load of goats and sucked him off down into the warp to be Tzinch's bitch buddy. In combat, the dwarves kill a few goats, the goats kill 1 or 2 dwarves, and my champion kills his champion in a challenge. The combat ends up being a draw, and I reform for more ranks. And yes, I forget to stomp with the Razor Gore every single turn, apart from the last one where I rolled a 1. Don't worry guys, I don't think idiocy is contagious. We go into the dwarf turn. My mages are hiding behind their herdstone, but a couple of the Iron Drakes can still see the level 1 shaman, and they plink a wound off him. The rest of shooting isn't actually that bad. The cannon only puts 2 wounds on the Razor Gore, the flame cannon only melts a couple more goats, and then the organ gun finishes off the last of the grunts, but my toughness 8 characters really soak up the rest of the fire. And being able to re-roll one of its dice, that organ gun's been having quite a good game in terms of generating hit dice. In combat, the Bestigor get Primal Frenzy! First time it's ever happened, and it's just what we need to push on through this wall of metal. My Beast Lord gets in a challenge with his hero, and they proceed to tickle each other. I lose a couple of Bestigor, and I think he loses 3 or 4 dwarves. It wasn't more than that. Bit of anticlimax. We win, but he has no problem passing his break check. In the Beastman turn, we charge with the Wargore wall at his Longbeards. I was basically thinking, they can't back up, or they'll be torn apart by shooting, so they might as well get in combat and charge, and at least go down gloriously. And this is yet another instance of me being a colossal idiot. I know, I'm sure you're shocked. But one of the plans for this unit is if they get into a sticky situation, a la now, I can send 5 heroes 10 inches scattering around the field. Shall we say, out of line of sight of some Longbeards, and threatening charges on the artillery hill? I'm not saying it's going to win the game, but it's better than just wasting all these points now. But oh well, I forgot. As you can see, my Razorgore had the right idea, and just moved up out of the artillery's line of sight, looking for a charge in the next turn. In Magic, with my level 4 gone, my level 2 can just about manage a Wissons, and we put it on the Wargore because why not? In combat, one of the Wargore dies in challenge to the Dwarf Lord, the others kill a few dwarves and lose a guy in return. We lose combat by a bunch, but miraculously hold. In the Bestigor combat, we fail our Primal Fury, roll horrifically, and lose combat, but everyone stays around. In the Dwarf turn, the engineers by the artillery shoot at the Razorgore, but can't do anything to it. The Bestigor and the Ironbreakers draw combat, and yes, I forget to stomp. And the last remaining Wargore runs wounded off into the trees. The Razorgore charges the flame cannon, but the engineer puts it down executioner style in the stand and shoot. In the Magic phase, my level 2 blows himself up, casting Witten's Wild Form on the Bestigor. Unfortunately, I put down the wrong card, and so used the wrong spell. I don't really know what to say. I think I might need to go count my chromosomes. But yeah, the Beast Lord manages to put 1 wound on the hero he's in the challenge with, and the rest of the fight is a draw. I remember my stomp, failed to wound, and it's still a draw. So there you have it, the end of the game. I got put in my place well and truly. They don't call him the governor for nothing. Maybe it doesn't look it, but I actually did have great fun doing this game. I really quite like the feel of my list. It might need a few tweaks here and there, but I feel it's something I can start to settle into playing. We talked a bit after this game, and considered a problem with the way I tried to play it was that I funneled my chaff down this narrow lane towards his gun pieces, where the cannon and flame cannon can potentially hit more than 1 unit at a time. As it played out, that wasn't a particular issue, but not being anywhere near the leadership bubble turned out to be fatal. Even so, if I'd remembered the chalice and got lucky with the war machine clogging, perhaps it might have worked. An alternative might have been to play more with the board space, sending my faster chaff wide round the flank to try to get behind his lines, as my larger blocks forced him to pay attention to the centre. But yeah, failing that charge because of the Rune of Slowness was pretty major, as if I'd got Savage Beast off in that combat phase, I could have seriously put the hurt on the Longbeards. Probably wouldn't have broken them, and might have lost eventually, but it could have been nasty. But anyway, that's the game. A big thank you to my opponent, and now let's check out the scores.